Good afternoon and welcome to my presentation. So I'm Flight Lieutenant Philippa Lloyd-Williams, and today I'm just going to take you through a bit of RAF engineering careers. So like in other presenters, these are a few pictures of my career so far. One is out in the Middle East, one is down on a rainy day in Corsham, one's at Mestre, and one is at where I work now, number 1 Air Control Centre, or RAF Scampton, as it's probably better known. So my career to date is a bit different. So 10 years ago, I applied to Welbeck Sixth Form College. That was 2010 to 2012. I then went to Northumbria University, studied electronic and electrical engineering for 3 years, didn't do a master's, just got a bachelor's. And then I went straight into initial officer training at Cranwell. I was there for a year, doing various different things. And then I went to engineer officer foundation training. Between those two jobs, I had a bit of what we call a hold that was at Bryce Norton, rolling out one of the next bits of software to the military at Bryce Norton, which is ModNet XO, that's what it says at the top. And then I went to engineer officer further training, which is where how we as officers learn how to be engineer officers specifically, so how to manage within the engineering environment. From there, I was posted to MOD Corsham, down into the Global Operations Security Control Centre. I was on enterprise data analysis capability, so quite cyber focused in that respect. I then deployed out to the Middle East as OCC4I at 901 EAW, out in Qatar for 6 months, which is a different job again. And now my job now is OC Control Reporting Centre Engineering at RAF Bulmer and RAF Scampton, which is going into radar and command control systems. So I have had a varied career, and I've only been in 4 years this year. So what am I going to talk to you about? So the RAF and what we do. So we protect the UK and our interests 24/7. We're here all the time, and we provide the nation with a choice in a time of crisis. So whatever branch or trade you're employed in the RAF, we all work together, both people, capability, and we support air power. Be that from humanitarian aid to disaster relief or support to UK authorities. So the global pandemic that we've got going on is a good example of that at the minute, or even things such as the Olympics. So whatever the RAF output, people are our main focus. Yes, we've got typhoons, yes, we've got computers, but people will always be there to help run it. So of about the 30,000 people we've got in the RAF, there's 40,000 employed within engineering or engineering technician-based roles. That means there's about 12,000 engineers throughout the Air Force working from cyber to space or generating aircraft to provide that role. So responsible for leading and managing those 12,000 engineers and technicians are the RAF Officer. So let's have a look and have a deeper dive into that. So what is an RAF officer? Because that's what we are first. So an RAF officer is selected and employed to lead and manage. So we set direction, and we are the decision makers within the engineering field. From day one, when we complete our training, we're given responsibility of people, and engineers are normally given responsibility of cutting-edge equipment and people at the same time. But don't worry, don't let that put you off, because we get all the training we need to provide that support. So what is an officer? So these 10 things listed are what we are. So courageous warfighters, emotionally intelligent, willing to take risks, flexible and responsive, able to handle that ambiguity, technologically proficient, able to lead through tomorrow's recruit, so that's the next generation, mentally able and physically robust, and then politically and globally astute, so just understanding what's going on in the world and where we need to go. So there are 2 parts to engineering. There's communications, electronics, and there's Aero systems, or CE and AS, as I'll probably refer to them. So I'm a CE engineer, so typically once we've finished EOF, we go into what is called our foundation tour. That allows us to build our understanding of people, our understanding of engineering, and then our understanding of how our engineering fits into those people and the RAF. So as you saw from the film at the start, That was Lauren. She's also a CE engineer. She worked up at 90. And we would lead the technicians and specialists responsible for delivering the RAF's IT and communication systems. So this could be at what we call main operating bases, such as Bryce, Coningsby, Lossiemouth, Waddington, or it could be deployed out of area, as I was out in 901. So we're doing this to get us into the 21st century air operations. So typically you do about 2 years in your first job, you really get that solid foundation, and then we move on further into things such as project teams or into other command roles such as the Air Warfare Centre or WANAC, where I work at the minute. Moving on, so you look at the Aero Systems Engineer. So we typically do IoT and EOF together. So our 2 sets of training we do together. EOF, they do slightly different. The focus of an Aero Systems Officer is the airworthiness and airworthiness authority, which will allow them to sign off aircraft to fly eventually. So like us, they have a command tour. A little bit different is that they would look after a components bay or a general engineering flight. After 2 years then, unlike us, they then move into something called a GENGO tour. So it's the name given Junior Engineering Officer of a flying squadron. This is where they then work towards becoming Airworthiness Authority approved. Gaining this, they then go on to project teams like we would, and they're then responsible for the frontline operation of the RAF's aircraft and equipment, providing day-to-day advice, investigations, equipment, tools, and not to mention bringing that new equipment into service or modifying what we've already got. We've got some quite old aircraft, so that's what they do. So here we go. There's another slide there. So you join as an RAF engineer officer and then you pick your specialisation. And that's predominantly dependent on your degree, although it's get a little bit more technical than that when we get into it. So you've chosen your degree. I'm assuming most people on this will have chosen an engineering type degree, so aeronautical, electronics or mechanical. As I've just said, your specialisation for us is normally dependent on that degree choice. So if you go down a software engineering or computer science, you'll only really be able to apply for CE engineer. If you have something like a physics or a maths degree, you can apply for both, and then our engineering branch sponsor will then decide if it's suitable and sufficient and give you the academic background you need to do that. So there are kind of 2 sponsorship schemes for engineers. So we have the DETA scheme, which is about to have its name changed, and then we have the UAS bursary, if you want some financial assistance, and then a guaranteed job at the end of it, which is always a good thing. I found it quite good. It meant that I was with a whole load of people going through uni that had the same output, so we could support each other. We knew what we were aiming for at the end, which is important to have that goal. So we normally ask for degrees that are recognised by the IET, the IMechE, the Royal Aeronautical Society or the British Computer Society. But if your degree isn't recognised by one of them, apply anyway. The ENG branch sponsor and the recruitment teams will be able to tell you if your degree is sufficient enough to join the RAF. So this is the process really. So you've gone through the selection process, which has changed significantly since I did it. So I'm going to point you in the direction of the recruitment team for that. But once you're an engineer officer, then we have continued professional development, your experience, and then that will then lead you on to promotion. So my continued professional development is doing events like this. I go out and do STEM in the local communities just to build that wider network. Experience, you only get that by doing the job, and I'm on job number 3 at the minute. So I'm still building that, and I'm still aiming for promotion, which will come eventually. So we'll just move in a bit more to the lifestyle that we have.
On average, it will rotate approximately every 2 years. There is opportunities to stay in roles longer than that. It can be difficult to move around so often. I think when I first joined, it was definitely a matter of excitement. I could be posted anywhere around the world.
I find it really important to have that balance of friends away from the Royal Air Force. At the same time, I love getting involved with what the RAF does. I like to have a good balance.
The work-life balance is what you make it. I had my daughter, but I actually think I've become more effective at using my time, so it doesn't matter as much because I still do my core hours and they are very flexible. I've got my laptop, I can work from home.
Living in a mess is sort of a shared living environment. You get your own room, you get your own bathrooms normally, but the best bit about the mess is probably the bar.
The mess is there for anyone to use, but you don't have to use it. I know a lot of friends of mine who perhaps have family who actually own property elsewhere will do the commute day to day, or in fact just live in the mess in the week and then go back to their own home in the weekend.
Sports is quite a big one for me. I currently play RAF hockey for the under-25s. I'm involved in other aspects such as tennis, athletics, skiing. It provides all those opportunities that you wouldn't get in a normal job.
Well, it's important that you keep fit for your job. I think it helps create a unit identity or flight identity. It's just good for morale.
So hopefully this has given you a quick snapshot of the role of an engineer officer, kind of the two different specialisations, and then the opportunities that we get, and then the lifestyle, as you've just seen, which is an important part of the RAF and kind of what steps us apart from everything else. We're truly looking for the innovators of the future, the people that have got the ideas to change how we operate for the better and moving into that next generation.